Preparing for a project management at MUFG interview? You've reached Candy Mentor, and this video is for you. We'll walk through 20 key questions you're likely to face. For each question you'll see a sample answer followed by the key points to cover. Subscribe, like, and share, and drop a topic request in the comments. Question 1. How would you manage a complex banking project with multiple business, technology, risk, and compliance stakeholders? I start by mapping stakeholders according to influence, impact, and decision authority. Then I establish a steering committee, working groups, clear RACI ownership, and a communication calendar. For a banking project, risk, compliance, security, and operations must participate early rather than approve everything at the end. I maintain a decision log, requirements traceability, and escalation thresholds. This structure keeps delivery coordinated while ensuring business outcomes, control obligations, and customer impact remain visible. While answering, focus on stakeholder mapping, governance, decision rights, communication cadence, requirements traceability, risk ownership, escalation paths, and balancing delivery speed with regulatory and operational control expectations. Question 2. Describe how you would plan and deliver a major core banking or payments system transformation. I would begin with measurable outcomes such as faster settlement, fewer processing failures, or reduced operating cost. Next, I would baseline the current architecture, interfaces, data quality, controls, and dependencies. I would use staged releases, proving each capability before expanding scope. Dedicated workstreams would cover migration, testing, security, training, and operations. Cutover would require rehearsals, go or no-go criteria, rollback plans, and hypercare. In banking, controlled transition matters as much as technical completion. Make sure to cover business outcomes, current state assessment, target architecture, dependency mapping, phased delivery, data migration, testing, operational readiness, cutover planning, rollback criteria, and post-implementation stabilization. Question 3. How do you prioritize competing project requirements when budget, time, and regulatory obligations conflict? I classify requirements as regulatory, risk-reducing, customer-critical, operationally valuable, or optional. Regulatory and control items receive priority even when they do not generate visible revenue. For remaining scope, I compare customer value, risk reduction, dependencies, effort, and cost of delay. I present alternatives clearly, including what will be deferred and its consequences. Sponsors then make informed decisions through change control, while the baseline, assumptions, and rationale remain documented. In your answer, talk about mandatory versus discretionary scope, risk-based prioritization, regulatory deadlines, customer value, dependencies, cost of delay, transparent trade-offs, and formal change control approval. Question 4. Tell me about a project that was at risk of missing its deadline. What did you do? On one project, integration testing fell behind because an external dependency delivered unstable interfaces. I made the risk visible immediately, separated blocked from unblocked work, and replanned the critical path. We introduced contract testing, daily dependency reviews, and a limited scope mock service. I offered sponsors 3 recovery options with cost, risk, and date impacts. We delivered the highest priority release on time without bypassing security or testing controls, then completed lower priority scope afterward. Be sure to mention early warning indicators, root cause analysis, critical path review, recovery options, stakeholder transparency, replanning, quality safeguards, and measurable results rather than simply describing extra effort. Question 5. How would you establish effective project governance for a high-risk financial services initiative? I design governance proportionate to risk, not merely project size. A delivery team manages daily execution, work stream leads resolve dependencies, and a steering committee handles scope, funding, and major risks. Stage gates verify requirements, architecture, security, testing, operational readiness, and control evidence before progression. I maintain a reliable RAID log, decision register, and benefits dashboard. Independent risk or compliance challenge should be welcomed because it improves decisions and protects the bank. Focus on governance layers, stage gates, accountable owners, RAID management, architecture and security reviews, audit evidence, control testing, reporting metrics, escalation thresholds, and independent challenge. Question 6. What is your approach to managing third-party vendors on a critical banking project? I establish measurable deliverables, acceptance criteria, service levels, named owners, and escalation routes before work begins. Vendor due diligence covers security, resilience, data handling, subcontractors, financial stability, and regulatory obligations. I track progress through integrated plans rather than accepting optimistic status reports. Regular reviews examine quality, defects, dependencies, and forecast dates. For critical suppliers, I maintain contingency options, transition knowledge, and exit planning so delivery is not hostage to one provider. Discuss due diligence, contract deliverables, service levels, milestones, acceptance criteria, dependency management, information security, resilience, escalation, performance reviews, and contingency plans for supplier failure. Question 7. How do you manage risk and issues differently during project delivery? A risk is a potential event, an issue has already occurred. I record both in a structured RAID process, assigning owners, probability and impact, response actions, target dates, and escalation thresholds. For example, a potential vendor delay needs mitigation and contingency, while an actual missed milestone needs recovery action and sponsor visibility. I review the register regularly, quantify material exposure where possible, and close items only after evidence confirms the response worked. Explain that risks are uncertain future events while issues are current problems. Cover probability impact scoring, mitigation, contingency, owners, due dates, escalation, residual risk, and lessons learned. Question 8. How would you choose between Agile, Waterfall, and a hybrid delivery model at MUFG? I choose the method based on uncertainty, dependency structure, and control needs rather than preference. Agile works well for evolving customer experiences and allows frequent feedback. Waterfall can suit fixed regulatory milestones, infrastructure dependencies, or hardware-led work. A hybrid approach often fits banking. Iterative delivery within workstreams, combined with formal architecture, risk, testing, and release gates. Whichever model we select, roles, artifacts, decision rights, and evidence requirements must be explicit from the start. In your answer, compare uncertainty, regulatory controls, fixed dependencies, iterative feedback, documentation, release frequency, governance, and why a hybrid model may suit complex banking transformations. Question 9. How do you ensure a project meets regulatory, security, and audit requirements without slowing delivery unnecessarily? I involve compliance, legal, privacy, security, and operational risk during discovery, then map obligations to requirements, controls, tests, and evidence. Reviews are planned into the delivery calendar, not added as a final hurdle. Teams can move quickly by automating evidence collection, using reusable control patterns, and applying risk-based testing. I also maintain traceability from regulation to implementation and approval. This approach makes compliance a design input instead of an unpredictable late-stage blocker. Cover early involvement of control functions, control mapping, privacy and security by design, evidence automation, risk-based testing, approval lead times, traceability, and avoiding late-stage compliance surprises. Question 10. Describe how you would manage data migration for a customer or account platform replacement. I treat migration as a business transformation, not a simple technical load. First, I profile data quality, define authoritative sources, and agree mappings, cleansing rules, retention, and ownership. We run several rehearsals using production-like volumes, reconcile record counts and financial balances, and obtain business validation. Cutover includes freeze windows, sequencing, rollback criteria, monitoring, and support coverage. Every transformation must be explainable and auditable, especially for customer, account, and transaction data. Mention data profiling, ownership, cleansing, mapping, reconciliation, privacy, migration rehearsals, parallel validation, cutover sequencing, rollback, auditability, and business sign-off on data quality. Question 11. How would you handle a production incident during a high-profile project release? I would establish one incident commander, confirm impact, and separate restoration from root cause investigation. The team would use predefined severity levels, rollback or feature disable options, and clear communication to operations, executives, customers, and control functions. I would preserve logs and decisions while avoiding blame during recovery. After stabilization, we would complete a blameless review, identify systemic causes, assign corrective actions, and update release criteria, monitoring, and runbooks. Focus on customer and operational impact, incident command, triage, communications, containment, rollback, evidence preservation, business continuity, root cause analysis, and corrective actions. Question 12. What project metrics would you use to report health to senior leadership? I report a concise view of outcomes, forecast, risk, and decisions required. Core indicators include milestone variance, cost forecast, critical path health, escaped defects, test completion, unresolved high risks, dependency aging, control readiness, and benefits realization. I show trends in confidence, not just green or red status. Each exception includes impact, owner, recovery action, and decision date. Senior leaders need an honest forecast and clear choices, not a dashboard designed to look reassuring. Discuss outcome-based metrics alongside schedule, cost, scope, quality, risk, dependency, readiness, benefits, and control indicators. Explain trends and corrective actions rather than presenting raw numbers. Question 13. How do you resolve disagreement between business stakeholders and engineering teams? I first clarify whether the disagreement concerns outcomes, requirements, implementation, timing, or risk. Then I bring both groups to shared facts, customer impact, technical constraints, control obligations, cost, and delivery evidence. If uncertainty remains, I propose a small experiment or spike. I ensure the accountable decision-maker understands the options and consequences, then record the decision and revisit it if assumptions change. Healthy disagreement is useful when it remains respectful and outcome-focused. Be sure to mention active listening, shared outcomes, fact-based options, technical constraints, customer impact, risk and cost analysis, decision rights, experiments, and documenting final decisions. Question 14. How would you prepare a banking project for operational handover and business readiness? Operational readiness begins well before launch. I define support ownership, service levels, monitoring, alert thresholds, runbooks, access procedures, continuity arrangements, and escalation paths. Operations and business users participate in acceptance testing, rehearsals, training, and knowledge transfer. I require evidence that support teams can diagnose common failures and execute recovery procedures. Go-live approval depends on agreed readiness criteria, not only code completion, and hypercare provides a controlled transition into steady-state service. Cover support ownership, runbooks, monitoring, service levels, training, access, continuity plans, knowledge transfer, release support, user acceptance, and formal operational acceptance criteria. Question 15. How do you control scope when senior stakeholders repeatedly request changes? I welcome useful changes but prevent informal commitments from destabilizing the baseline. Every request receives an impact assessment covering value, risk, dependencies, capacity, controls, cost, and schedule. I classify it as mandatory, beneficial, or deferrable, then take material changes through the agreed governance forum. Approved changes update scope, plan, funding, and acceptance criteria. If capacity is fixed, I make the trade-off explicit. Adding one item means removing or delaying another. Discuss a clear baseline, change classification, impact assessment, prioritization, funding and schedule effects, governance approval, traceability, and protecting delivery teams from informal commitments. Question 16. Tell me about a time you influenced a team without having direct authority. In a cross-functional program, a platform team resisted an integration date because they feared production instability. I listened to their concerns, brought reliability data, and reframed the discussion around a shared customer outcome. We agreed on a smaller first release, explicit readiness criteria, additional observability, and a rollback rehearsal. Because the plan addressed their risk rather than imposing a date, they committed voluntarily. The release met its objective and strengthened trust for subsequent phases. Focus on credibility, shared goals, empathy, evidence, negotiation, coalition building, clear commitments, escalation only when necessary, and measurable improvement in delivery or collaboration. Question 17. How would you manage a globally distributed project team across different cultures and time zones? I establish working agreements covering response times, meeting etiquette, escalation, documentation, and decision ownership. Meetings rotate where practical, while important information remains available asynchronously in a shared workspace. I use overlapping hours for decisions and structured handoffs for dependencies. I actively invite quieter participants and confirm understanding rather than interpreting silence as agreement. Cultural awareness matters, but I avoid stereotypes. I ask people how they prefer to collaborate and make expectations explicit. Mention inclusive communication, working agreements, overlapping hours, asynchronous documentation, decision transparency, cultural awareness, dependency handoffs, escalation norms, and avoiding assumptions about silence or agreement. Question 18. How do you define and measure benefits realization after a project goes live? I define benefits during initiation, assign accountable owners, establish baselines, and agree measurement methods and dates. Benefits might include reduced payment failures, faster processing, lower manual effort, improved customer adoption, or stronger control coverage. After launch, I track actual results against the baseline, separating project delivery from business adoption. If benefits lag, I investigate process, training, product, or data issues and agree corrective actions rather than declaring success at go live. In your answer, cover baseline metrics, measurable outcomes, benefit owners, adoption, operational savings, customer impact, control improvements, measurement timing, and corrective action when benefits fall short. Question 19. How would you respond if project estimates from several teams were consistently unreliable? I would avoid simply demanding more accurate numbers. First, I would examine whether estimates are unclear, overly large, missing dependencies, or distorted by pressure. Teams would decompose work, document assumptions, provide ranges and confidence, and compare forecasts with historical performance. We could use reference classes, throughput, or milestone-based forecasting where appropriate. I would communicate uncertainty honestly and improve estimates through calibration, while preserving psychological safety so teams do not hide risk. Discuss estimation assumptions, historical data, decomposition, ranges, confidence levels, dependency uncertainty, progressive elaboration, calibration, forecasting, and avoiding pressure that encourages teams to understate effort. Question 20. Why do you want to be a project manager at MUFG, and how would you contribute? I am attracted to MUFG because its scale and global financial services footprint create meaningful, complex transformation challenges. I would contribute disciplined execution without losing sight of customers, colleagues, and control obligations. My strengths are building transparent plans, aligning diverse stakeholders, surfacing risk early, and turning ambiguity into accountable decisions. In a bank, reliability and trust are essential deliverables, so I would measure success through sustainable adoption, resilient operations, and outcomes that stand up to scrutiny. Be sure to connect motivation to MUFG's global financial services environment, transformation complexity, customer trust, resilience, disciplined governance, collaboration, measurable outcomes, and your specific delivery strengths. If you are still with us, congratulations! You are much ahead of the rest and serious about preparing for your interview. We hope we were able to add value to your preparation and create some helpful content. Do not forget to like and share this video. Your small act can do great things for us.